Good afternoon, folks. My name is Corey Smith. I'm a senior consultant with Griffin Hammis Associates, and I want to spend a little time this afternoon talking about some of the strategies that we've been learning to use to keep the customized employment process going during these crazy chaotic times during COVID. One of the really good things that I've really appreciated is that provider organizations and a lot of the essential worker businesses, people are still getting those jobs, and that's just fantastic. But one of the concerns I want to cover today is those people that need in-depth discovery and informational news in the whole intensive customized employment process is that we really don't want their, the delivery of their employment services to stop, because we find that concerning, and we'd like people to, to not get lost in the shuffle. So here's the things that we know, right? We know that we're dealing with these barriers of shuttered business, closed day programs, sheltered in place group homes, job seekers unable to leave their homes. So we start thinking about, okay, those are the problems, and let's talk about figuring out the solutions, right? So one of the things, and I think that there's a number of states that have been working on becoming a technology first state that I think is pretty cool. And some states haven't got there yet, but figuring out how to have, the right staff who can really do discovery, who can really do effective customized employment strategies, and then empower them and give them the tools to use technology, to use virtual strategies. The next thing we're figuring out is having people in group homes, people that maybe live somewhere where they don't have access to a laptop, there might not be internet connection, and we want to make sure that how do we convince the team and the system to help with that technology to be able to do that. One of the other things is also what we've learned the hard way is that not all technology works for everybody, right? We want to work with the people we're representing, and offer as many options as possible. I think a lot of us are using Zoom, FaceTime, Echo shows, as many options as possible. What's going to work for this person, for their family, for where they live, right? So we can continue the process. The other thing that we're really kind of excited about is there are a lot of artists and businesses that we're still partnering with and building relationships with every day. But to be really honest with you, you'll have some of these fantastic artisans who are really good at what they do. They're fantastic teachers, but frankly, they're like, Corey, we don't have a laptop or we don't have internet connection. So we've had to figure out strategies around that. Like, so we have a job seeker sheltered in place in a group home somewhere, and we send an employment specialist double masked into the business owner's place of business with a laptop, using a hotspot, and being able to make that connection. One of the other things that we've kind of struggled with, you really have to be able to think on your feet. Technology isn't perfect, and I imagine anybody that's on this webcast can talk about some technology that broke down. I know when I do training, we put people into breakout sessions. We call it getting zoomed. Somebody gets dumped off the system. One of the videos that I'm hoping to show you today, we were doing the informational interview, and the employment specialist laptop just went bonkers, and it sounded like a jet taking off every time they spoke. And we're also figuring out the issue of social distancing, right? Sometimes we've had to use the garage with the door open to get air and to be in big open places where we can, know that people are safe and still have good experiences. So we talk about, we've got to learn something new every day, right? So we want to figure out how to figure out somebody's ideal conditions, even during these restrictive times. We want to learn with what we're learning a lot with Griffin Hammis is we're a little obsessed with this thing about task-based discovery activities, right? Somebody has an interest and we have to confirm that they have skills in this area that we can teach people. So we really focus that, during one of the biggest things about discovery is finding task-based, activities in businesses and in places where we can teach and we can confirm the skills that people have. And we're spending a lot of time on learning how to conduct virtual informational interviews to get the process started or to get people unstuck. I think that's my job these days, is just helping people get unstuck, right? And once people are learning things, we really want to make sure that they're implementing what they're learning. So, what do we got to learn? Some people, particularly, some of the millennial crowd, are really into doing things online. So we've had somebody, just this, laundry list you're seeing here. We've gotten baking lessons online. We've met dog people, fishermen's group, organic gardeners, fashion, woodworkers guild. So we've been able to do the online meetup. The other thing is, like with pop-up businesses, I live in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And, even we have this new wonderful pop-up down, it's called the Quakertown Trolley Barn. And I think we've got these all over the place. They've got the brewery and they've got the great little bakery, and they've got all these artisans that we've had so much success with, right? And, where the bigger stores are, some places are shuttered, and they've been wonderful to work with. So we'll talk a little bit more about relationship mapping, but in our line of work, one of the expectations has to be, we have to constantly be out there building relations with more and more diverse business owners. And we'll spend a lot, you'll hear me obsessing on that. So we've got to talk to more people, right? Neighbors, strangers. So what do you do? And we want to expand our go-to style. If you like to do everything online, we think you've got to go talk to more people. And when we're using a customized strategy, right, we've been really focused on helping tell somebody's story and tell somebody's story more effectively. I was working in an estate a couple of years ago, and we had this young man. When I met him, he was sleeping on a day program table because he was so bored. And it turns out he's a Shakespearean actor, and we actually got him a work in that area. But boy, we had to develop video portfolios and tell his story in a really different way. So you have to credit my coworker, Russell Sickles, who's just always reminding me, like, you're a storyteller. How are you helping tell this story differently to somebody that might want to employ one of our people? So here's some of the experiences that I've had that I've been pretty excited about during COVID. So I've worked for years with a wonderful organization in Alabama called the Full Life Ahead Foundation, and to go down about twice a year for a weekend and work with families and job seekers and teach them customized strategies. And obviously during lockdown, we couldn't do that. So we did that on a 3-day weekend. And during that time, and I'm not going to get too deep into all this, met a mother and a young woman senior year in high school with some pretty complex barriers to employment, and with support from the high school, from the family, from her DSP, we've been putting together a dog food business, and not the dog treat thing everybody else is doing, but she was obsessed with her dog and she likes to cook. So if you're a dog person like I am, and you have you take your dog to the vet, and the vet says you got to put them on that pure diet of the white rice and the burger and the carrots. And so they've adopted that from their vet. And this young woman, the teacher's coming into the home, the DSP's helping with deliveries, the sister's developing the website. And during the darkest of times, here they are with somebody who hasn't graduated, developing a new business, which is really exciting. The other thing, when I was working with the Full Life Ahead Foundation, one of the families I was working with, there's this phenomenal woman named Tracey, and she's the parent of a person with a disability. She's a professional, and she's a 5-star baker right out of her house. And I've been working. You'll meet Bridget here in a minute. And Bridget really wants to learn how to bake, right? And she really that's her strongest vocational theme. and that's what she knows she wants to do. So Tracey, you'll see it was probably an hour and a half conversation with all kinds of teaching, where Terry gives us all this great advice, and then she basically adopts Bridget. She says on the video she's going to give her all kinds of, she sends her a crate of baking equipment. Now she's staying involved, and she's sending another crate of baking equipment. And the other ones I'll go through a little quicker. You'll see a video on Kent's wood shop, and we built a relationship, Sunset T-shirt shop, and all these. And the last one I want to mention, we were doing some work for an organization in New York, and we had a young man who was interested in the performing arts, and he done an internship at the Lincoln Center. So my son's girlfriend, Emma Storm, who is just incredibly talented young woman, she works for Opera America in New York City. And they're basically, if I have this right, they're the trade association for the entire opera, the entire opera world. And we did an informational interview. And when she heard that he had interned at the Lincoln Center, she said, "Oh my God, I'm just going to go, get you set up to be working for them the day that we can get you back out on the street." And it was like, wow. So, it's a small world. So when you can't go right down the street, but it kind of, enlarges your circle of who you can get advice from and who you can partner with, which is kind of exciting. One of the other things that we've been picking up on, a lot of this, I have to credit Keystone Human Services in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Erica Kishba, their director. We've been partnering on a lot of this work. So a lot of this is Erica's team doing this work. So we had somebody interested in fashion. So there's a pop-up gig coming down in Valentine's Day in Harrisburg that we're going to get somebody to, and another one there with people doing cooking. So that's another option we have. So this is Bridget, and Bridget is the young woman who wanted to do baking. There's a picture of Bridget with some of her equipment that Tracey sent her. So I'm going to show you her video of Tracey giving us advice. And again, this is probably an hour and a half conversation, and we edited it down to about 8 minutes. But I'm hoping that you'll really enjoy this, and this will kind of motivate you to do something similar.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
So Tracey, can you tell us a little bit about your bakery and how you got into having a home-based bakery business, and what are your specialties, and how long, what do you like, and how long, what are you proud of, and how long you've been doing it?
My grandmother taught me how to bake. She, thus the name Mandy's. My name is Amanda Tracey, and she was Amanda B. And they called her Mandy. I use all of her recipes, and I've been baking since I was 11, 47 years.
Wow.
How long
And
have you owned the bakery?
How long have you
say
done?
what now?
How long have you had the bakery in your home?
5 years.
5 years.
The cottage food laws allowed me to bake from my home.
Okay.
I got Serve Safe certified, and I went to the health department, and I had to sign a waiver and do a label, not inspected by the health department, basically.
Okay.
And that was it.
So Bridget, what questions do you have about working in a bakery?
I'm gonna make cakes and cookies.
You'd like to make cakes and cookies? That the kind of stuff you'd like to do?
Yeah.
So Tracy, what are your specialties?
Brownies, cakes, cookies. I did a cookie cake for
I can do brownies too. You made brownies before. Yeah. Yeah.
and cupcakes.
I can make cupcakes too. Yeah, I've made cupcakes before. Not me. No? No. I know you've made brownies before, right? I made cupcakes before. No, not cupcakes. Did you want to ask any questions about how to make cupcakes? Yeah. You can ask. How do you make cupcakes?
Okay. These are cupcake pans.
Oh, I see now.
And you get liners from Walmart and put into the cupcake tins. And basically, you follow the directions on the box. And thus, cupcakes.
Yeah.
So who buys most of your cakes, and what kind of events are people having that they buy your cakes?
Birthdays, anniversaries. I do wedding cakes.
Wow.
Wedding cakes, wow. Mm-hmm. So when people get married, they have nice big cakes and Tracey makes them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you have for Bridget that Bridget lives in a group home, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have for Bridget as she started maybe just easing into baking and trying to see if that would be something she could make money at? What advice would you give somebody?
Start small. Do you have counselors that are in the group home?
She does have staff, and me, I am her job coach, so we all kind of work together.
And I'm a word of mouth business. I started with my family and friends, and they told somebody that I bake. Most customers are repeat customers.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew from, I would say, 10 customers. I have over 200 customers now.
Wow, that's great.
And that's just from word of mouth?
Yes.
I'm wondering if we couldn't do a little startup, like I'd buy a cake from her, like and you guys like concentrate on maybe, you know what I mean? Like what would be a couple of good sellers to start out with, maybe, and I'm Tracey, jump in, like maybe one or two that would be good, like do some market research and start with some stuff that would really sell and try to turn that around. What do you think, Trace?
Look, she can give away cupcakes.
Yeah.
A box of 24, a box makes 24 cupcakes.
Okay. Is that something you'd be interested in? Maybe you can make some cupcakes and give them around to your neighbors one day. Yeah. You like to do that? Yeah.
And what about a farmer's market, Crystal? Is there?
Oh, we have a lot of those out in this area, actually.
Okay. Would you be available to help with some of this, Crystal?
Of course. I think she's had them before, but she's never experienced making peanut butter cookies.
Okay. I will send you my recipe.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, you hear that, Bridget? Yeah.
That's very kind, Tracy. Thank you.
That's we appreciate it so much.
And I will get your address from Corey, and I will send you a couple of pans.
Okay.
Wow, that's so kind.
Yeah, you're gonna some baking stuff. You're gonna have fun in the kitchen now, right? Yeah.
I've got tons of stuff.
Wow, that's very kind, Tracy.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
So that's what caused the inspiration, this first video, and Tracy just being so kind. And now she's mentoring us. She, like every other day, what do you need? What do you need? She's sending another case of baking supplies. So the next step was, what was really interesting is the group home staff and Crystal working together, her learning how to do some cooking in the home. And then there was somebody had COVID and all this stuff. And then they did a second round from the office at, the office was shuttered at Keystone and they had to work that out, right? But the tenacity and people working together was great. So that now we have some cookies, and Bridget loved her cookies, but we had to do some taste testing. So we had her go around her neighborhood and, give cookies away and do some taste testing when that was all well received. And I really wanted her to start doing some trial sales and make some money. So I challenged the two of them to bake a bunch of cookies and mail them to me and then charge me for it, right? And they had to figure that out, and they had to go to the post office and they do all that stuff. And the cookies were great. But then I was like, wait a minute, we're not done. Where's my invoice? Well, so we had to kind of do hand over hand with them to get the invoice. So now she's getting paid and she's putting more money into her baking stuff. But yet we're still kind of in discovery, right? We haven't decided on this being we're trying to build skills, trying to build a reputation, tell her story. And then what we're learning, a number of these bakeries, we're getting advice from, virtual and otherwise. And now she's learning how to, the next thing was muffins and brownies. And then, start small, expand your circle of friends, figure who you know. And then it was like, keep going, right? Sometimes the customizing people just like, they think we did the home visit, we must be done. Let's go knock on somebody's door to hire somebody. And with the customized strategy, we're not there yet, right? We're trying to build the case. We're trying to show her skills that maybe somebody will hire her, or we can partner in some different way for her to make money, right? So last week she was making muffins. This week she's learning how to make cupcakes. She's taking an online baking course. And one of the staff, John, who's this incredible community leader through his church, he knew of a woman who's basically a 5-star baker who's retired. And she's I think she's kind of bored. She's really involved in her church, and they can't chase her out of the kitchen. Because she's learning everything. Well, next week, Bridget, I think it's this week, next week, I don't remember. She's so busy. Is they're setting up private baking lessons in the basement of the church, right, in a commercial kitchen. Then I have a couple of years ago, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little obsessed with cupcakes with the filling in the middle. Those are to die for. But it's a higher level skill, right? If you can do that, I think you can make money. So I have a friend who's a branding marketing expert, and he hooked me up all through email with Christina Hermansky. And we asked her, so on on February 20th, she's going to do some virtual lessons for Bridget. And the first one, she's going to teach her how to make raspberry frosting for a cake that she's working on. We've got another informational interview scheduled at Specialty Bakers. And as soon as I get done today, I have to send the list back to Tracey of all the other things that she wants to send Bridget because she's basically adopted her. So I think what we're trying to infuse into this is what is the next step in the customized process? What is the next step? We're always moving. We're always doing something. We're always building the case. We're always figuring out how to tell somebody's story more effectively, right? So the next person that I want to talk about is Shawn. And Shawn lives in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And Shawn, when he lived with his dad and had a relationship with his dad was kind of a handyman, was good with tools, but Shawn never really got the shot, but he always thought he wanted to do that, right? So he has this interest, but you don't have, right? You don't have a theme, and you haven't completed discovery until you do some task-based discovery activities, right? So Erica Kishbaugh, wonderful leader from Keystone, she talks to her husband, Scott, who is a engineer, into giving up an afternoon in their garage and teaching Shawn some skills. And I got to tell you, the whole thing goes so well. I whittled it down to about 4 minutes, but Shawn learned all kinds of stuff with handsaw, hand tools and electric tools. And here's Shawn.
And this is a battery powered drill. What I have drill is has a drill?
Yeah, dad has that drill.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you get the idea.
This is him finishing a second board.
If you had a better saw, you would be able to cut through that better. Okay. And with this saw, you want to keep it flat.
This is Shawn with a hacksaw cutting a pipe.
Yep. And you touch it. Make it flat. Okay. Almost had it. Yeah. Just get it back in the notch. Try to put it in a notch. Now try to flatten out the blade here. Yep, there we go. And just take smooth, long strokes. Okay, and pull it back further. Yep. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Is Shawn using a Zasaw? That's, those can be a little tricky. Using a power driver, pounding some nails.
That's great. Yeah.
So that's how that works. Great job. So you use that end to pull the nail out. It's pretty tight in there. So.
Muscles. There. Good.
Yeah.
They get the idea. So now if we turn this knob down, here, try turning that knob. Here, take your, see this control here? So try turning it this way. Use that hand to, turn this right here. See, do you see this right here? This, put your hands on my hands and try turn it. Yeah, there you go. So you want to turn this, just turn it that way. And now you should be able to back the screw out. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have some skills.
Okay. So
Yes, indeed.
it should be out there. Oh, just about out there in that. There you go. Yeah, it gets a little tight. There you go. Now you got it in. So, yeah, push the button. Let's get that, want to get that locked in there now. Nice.
Wow. Which way do you like doing it? With the power drill or with your hand? Yeah.
So interesting, Sean's kind of a shy guy, and he was, you know, didn't say a word all the way to their house, and you couldn't shut him up going home. Like, he was so excited, right? And the next thing we did, and I'm not going to go too deep with that, I don't want to run too long today, we'll hold people's attention, is Erica and Scott have this really good friend, Scott, who owns a wood shop, and we were trying to do in person, but then somebody was on lockdown. So we did the video portfolio. And what was interesting was, we did the video informational interview, virtual informational interview. And when I cut off the end of Sean's video, he's running this electric sander and he's doing really well. And Kent talks about, 80% of my job are people that can sand, but we'll leave that for another time, I think, today. But you know what? Actually, let's play it now.
In the myriad trades that are available, there's very good money to be had doing it. And it's, at the end of each day, you can physically see the results of your labor. Unlike a lot of jobs where you don't see it for sometimes weeks or months on end. And at least at the end of each day, I can see what I have done in the shop. And it brings great.
What kind of things do you make?
We focus primarily on residential cabinet and residential millwork. We do some commercial stuff, but not to any great degree.
Right.
But I also do a lot of remodeling, which works hand in hand with the stuff that I do in the shop. I think getting somebody to come into an apprenticeship concept is a great idea, because there's a commitment to learning from a master, and that's the best way to do it. I didn't have any formal training in woodworking. I learned everything the hard way. That is, try it, make a mistake, learn from your mistakes, and move on. I learned everything much before the age of the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm from the old school. I learned the hard way. The nice thing about it now is that a lot of things can be learned from the internet. However, you still have to do it. And there's so many things that you cannot teach through video that people have to learn hands-on. See, technology is creeping into this industry tremendously with the advent of 3D printers and CNC machines and things of that nature. That's going to be the direction that this industry is going to go in.
Okay.
And to change anything. I will say this, I was trained as a teacher. Therefore, I have spent a lifetime teaching people how to do this skill, this trade, and also educating my clients and my customers as to why they need to go with someone like myself or what they need to look at when they're buying something, because most people don't know the difference between one cabinet and another.
So what advice would you give to a young guy with Sean that would, who's, loves the wood, loves and needs to work probably with something smaller, a little safer equipment wise, and would just be kind of earning his keep and adding value and proving to somebody that they're worth having, they'd have enough skills to be around, like even somebody if you're thinking about starting in your garage or something.
Yeah, Sean, you need to find somebody that can act as a mentor that would be willing to take you in and start training you and giving you some tasks to do where you could start learning the fine art of woodworking. And that's going to be primarily a small shop where you will get exposed to a myriad different jobs or tasks. Area Central Pennsylvania, there are a lot. Even if they can't sand properly, I can teach them. And let's face it, sanding is probably 60 to 70% of the construction production time on a given piece. I mean, there is so much sanding that has to be done.
So my unprofessional editing there, and that was like an hour conversation. So then like, what's next, right? So we're gonna get Sean some training on a 3D printer through a friend of mine, and how to run a CNC machine. So what we did was we didn't get a chance to show Kent the video, and he saw the video and he said, well, you need to bring him in here. I need to take a shot at this guy, see what get to the next level, right? And then the next thing is we knew is they all live in a small town, and Shawns in a supported living arrangement, and the woman who supports him she's like the honorary mayor of the town. She knows everybody. So she's helping us make connections. The employment specialist, Kalara, that you just met, her mother works for a construction business. And he's gonna come out and he's gonna learn how to use a digital 3D printer and a CNC machine. And then there's in Harrisburg, there is like what we call a maker space. It's a wood crafters in Harrisburg, where he's gonna get mentored by some artisans and get some woodworking courses. And the last two, this is John doing all this work, is he's going to spend the next 2 weeks a day in a truck with this company called Handyman Matters, a guy doing handyman work. So, and we're building all this stuff. We're taking all these things. So hopefully we're going to put together, I'll be able to show you a video portfolio out on this one of these days. Somebody said, they've got a neighbor with a tree trimming service. They'd love to take Sean on for a day. So we're learning all this stuff, right? We're figuring out his career through the discovery process. One of the things that I really want to focus on and recognize is that we have to have people willing to do this stuff, right? People that feel comfortable, people that are community minded. The gentleman on the right is John, and we've got about 10 different informational interview videos, and Erica's actually building a library. And John's the person, every time you need something, what do you need? He goes and finds somebody at church. And people like that, how do we hire the right people? How do we recognize everything? And then the Sherry is the person right next door here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kevin's Worm Farm. So Kevin's one of those people where his job went belly up because of COVID. His company went under, and he really was into agriculture, and his employment specialist, they decided to start mucking around with worms, of all things. And then you can see right in the corner of that picture, Sherry has her husband come in on a Sunday morning and build some tables in a group home basement, right? Stuff you don't see every day. But they worked it out. And Erica has this way of, she really likes to represent people that other people don't work with. And she specializes in people in group homes. So I'm not, here's another, I have too many of these in here. Informational interview we did at Sunset Teas. One of the people that we were working with is into fashion and art, and they went to Sunset Teas, and the woman adopted her, of course, taught her a bunch, and now she's going to bring her in, and they're going to do a hoodie together on what she's into. So I want to talk a little bit about Kevin's Wigglers, and I need, Kevin is the gentleman here on the left, obviously, and with his beginning his worm business, and Scott's the gentleman with the beard here, who's just incredible leader, who's gone and doing everything. He started worms in his own basement and everything. And little did I know, I thought, you just go buy worms and sell them. Like, no. It's pretty much a 1 year prep with the worm business. You have to buy non-mature worms, you have to grow them, and then you have to be able to sell them, but have enough for the next generation, right? So here's Tim, an accomplished employment specialist who just cares a lot and learning as he goes. So here's the guys with growing the worms in the basement, right? And good thing Erica's not on the call. She could go on and on and on. So learning a whole bunch about worms, right? There's night crawlers and there's this, that kind. And you want to have enough of these to serve an array of customers, right? So here are the guys, they're growing all kinds of worms in the basement of the group home of all things. And here's the marketing plan. We're thinking that we've been working on this for 6 months, that by the 1st of April, we're going to be ready to go. So the marketing plan is that we've got fishermen, organic gardeners, farmers, pet owners, selling worms at gas stations, sporting goods, bait shop. And of course, Tim's working on a Facebook page and a website for Kevin's Wigglers. So, and they did all this again, from start to finish under COVID restrictions, which I think is pretty incredible. So, one of the things is like, how do you meet all these cool people? How do we diversify the artisan people that we're working with, right? So a lot of, with Griffin Hammonds, we do a lot of relationship charting. I do this with teams. I do this with board of directors. I do this all over the place. So we sit down and we ask people, who is your honorary mayor? Who's that person in your life that can charm the bark off a tree? Who's that person who can help us make connections? And then we ask people to go through their phone and make a list of everybody they know who owns a small business that might be able to give some advice, right? And we start mining those potential connections. So, and I, if you know me, I tell the good and the bad and the ugly. I'm a guy working for Griffin Hammonds the last 3 years, has spent 180 to 200 days a year, living in hotels around the country doing training. So, and I live in a subdivision where we've had a lot of turnover. So I don't hardly know any of my neighbors. So I'm saying, well, if I can't teach what I can't, I'm always say you can't teach what you can't do. So I was focusing on, and I read a couple of books. I recommend The Art of Community by Charles Vogel. And my next door neighbor with their 10-year-old daughter, adorable 10-year-old daughter, went at the darkest day of the pandemic, we were all locked down. They came over and she made us chocolate chip cookies and they were fab. And I asked my wife, I said, Michelle, I forgot their name. She said, how embarrassing. So have I. And she's the one with all the social skills, right? So this past summer, we built, we had the great garden and all these heirloom tomatoes. And these are goofy, but they're huge and they eat like candy, right? So I was all about the tomatoes, but they were maturing too fast and they were going to spoil. And I'm thinking, what I need to do some kind of social experiment with this. So my wife lent me a hand and we made some pretty darn good salsa, I have to admit. And I just made the list of everybody in my neighborhood I didn't know, starting with the next door neighbor, walk next door, with a beer and some salsa, and I admitted I forgot his name. We had a good laugh. And then 2 days later, his daughter left her sink turned on and took out her whole floor of her upstairs bathroom. So I had to go do some, carpentry next door. 2 doors down is a young man who is on the autism spectrum and built that relationship and helping them school to work transition. But his dad's a machinist giving us good advice. The guy across the street is a graphic designer and bonded with him and he's giving us good advice. There's another woodworker down the street, but the best one for me, there's this huge farmer's market in the town I live in. And I didn't know the guy down the street, right, owns it. And people love my salsa. And then I was real candid about, I'm out building relationships and I need to get advice from people. So this is just one of the things that I've been doing to expand my circle, to get to know more people, right? Particularly during these times that I think that people are really feeling isolated. So this is my new relationship map. And I'll go through this real quick, right? Tracey from Alabama helping us with the baking. Emma, my son's girlfriend, helping to develop a job for someone. Paul across the street with graphic design. My dear friend Achilles, who is a website designer and branding. He's helping us with all the branding for a business that we're supporting in Missouri. He's hooked me up with the woman, the Fancy Cupcakes is one of his customers. And all of these are new people that have helped us make connections that have led to something, right? So lessons learned. Businesses are available and they're open to virtual informational interviews. We just have to build that relationship, but you have to accept the fact that you have to be willing to help with the technology, with the staff, with the job seeker, with the group home, with the business, and you have to make it user friendly, right? And we've been able to use these informational interviews to get people unstuck, to get mentors, which has been so important. That what we say is stealing Carrie Griffin's famous lines. Carrie says is with Griffin Hammis, what we do is we go out and find an artisan, a master, and maybe we start working, and maybe for a while you make the coffee and you clean the bathroom, but at the end of the day, a master craftsman teaches you how to do something in that, and that's so valuable. And, you know, and when we're doing this stuff, it's really important. Appearance is good. And that we position the cameras correctly, that we have good sound, and that we keep it personal. So there's good learning, right? So these are all the things that we're learning. So hopefully this is going to be go out in a couple of weeks, and then hopefully I'll be able to respond and help Terry with making sure that we answer people's questions. And here is my contact information with Griffin Hammis. And we're always there for anybody. I'm just a email away to help anybody with getting unstuck, and would love to hear people's feedback on what the good and the bad and the ugly of today's presentation and lessons that you're learning, because I really think we've really got to, work together at these times to keep employment first, moving forward, and helping people that need customized strategies that they're able to still advance in their careers and not be stuck home on the couch. All right. So I wanted to make sure that we recognize our grant funder here, DERRP, and I think that's going to be it, Terry. And thank you, everybody. I hope that you have a great day. I hope you've been inspired, and I hope that you continue to do good work and push for employment first. Thank you very much.